So welcome to Defiant Events and our podcast on Opfor, which took place at Dog Tag on the weekend of the 4th and 5th of September. So this evening we've got a couple of the Defiant staff, a couple of our players, and some of our players that came to join us for the weekend. So first of all, I'd like to welcome Mike. Good evening, Mike. How are you?
Good evening. All good. Thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, excellent, Mike. Really, really good to have you on tonight as well. Mike was part of Rage 3, one of the teams I had the pleasure of working with over the weekend. And him and his guys, hopefully, had a really good weekend. And
yeah, we certainly did. First timers as well.
No, excellent. And really, the comments you put on your Insta post the other night there when you made your live and things, well, really, really appreciate what you said that night. That was hugely appreciated by all of us as well. Also tonight we've got Basha. Evening, Basha. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good, mate. Very good. You were part of 3 section. And,
that's correct.
And you guys are Task Force Spartan as your team. And
Yep,
you were working with us at the weekend as well then. Okay, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
No, thank you very much.
We've also got Nathan. Evening, Nathan. Nathan is the master of ceremony this evening. He's doing all the techie bits behind the scenes.
I'm trying to, but yes. Evening, chaps.
And we've got James, the master of Defiant himself. James, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm all good. Thank you, Kevin.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, guys, thank you all of you for spending the time this evening, joining us this evening and talking about our event at Dog Tag. So, our second 24 of this year, our third event of this year, and for us, our biggest event of this year as well. Pushed ourselves out there a little bit. I went to a new site, somewhere local in Sussex, and managed to get some new players coming along, like Mike and the guys who joined us from Rage 3. So what I want to do is just kind of run through a little bit of the event and just take on board representatives of Task Force and representatives of Opfor for the weekend. So, Mike, just thinking about the event itself on the build-up, you said yourself it was your first event to come and join a Defiant. What was it about our build-up and our PR that encouraged you and your boys to come along at the weekend?
So I suppose if you don't mind taking a liberty and take a quick step back. So why did we pick Defiant first and foremost to even get to that stage? So we're based in the southeast, and we was looking to sort of branch out to different sites, different milsim sort of 1 day, 2 day events, etc. And we come across Defiant. So I think like everyone, you do your bit of due diligence. Just started to do a bit of researching online. Spoke to a couple of people we know that have been to your previous events. Got chatting to you guys via social media. Was very, very easy to find, very, very easy to engage with. And James sort of put it out there to say, look, throw as many questions at him as we wanted to, and we did. We threw a lot of questions, and then from there, obviously, James then decided with you guys to put together a little bit of an opening gambit, as a little bit of a live Q&A. So that was, from our perspective, was a really good starting point. That you're open to conversation, you're open to answering the questions being asked, but then took it a one step further and just faced into really trying to address everyone and anyone that's interested in coming along to your events. And from the very outset of that, you've pulled together some video footage which was incredibly well shot. And first thoughts from us was, these guys are serious. These guys are, they're organised, they're serious about this, and they really want to put on a good show. And we started to sort of, have the conversations, the back and forth, asking you guys live questions, and you was facing into all of that. And about sort of 20-30 minutes into your podcast, live stream, we thought, what, this feels like the right place to be. This feels like it's going to be a good event. These feel like a good bunch of guys, and everything we've got from a first impressions perspective seems to be ticking the box from what we're after from a 24-hour event. So I suppose that's from us, just the whole polish, the finesse, from there was really good. We put the deposits in. We done it during the stream, and very quickly you get the confirmation come through. You're invited to join into the wider Opfor chat, as it was Opfor that we was joining, and then from then, obviously, when we were sort of broken into the smaller call signs, etc., we was then stuck into that chat as well. So very from very much in the infancy. It's not just about give us your money, let's get you on board. It's a case of let's give you the information you want. Let's preempt what you're after. Let us give you the opportunity to make a decision whether you're in or out. We was in, and then from then, the great work was upheld. As we said, it's very, very organised. You kept the chat fluid, you kept it on point. You sort of encouraged everyone to join the WhatsApp groups, and sort of actively get organised. And then very much from then, it was very, very collaborative. Right up to the start of the 24-hour event. So yeah, for me, really, really good, and very encompassing for myself as a seasoned airsofter, if that's the right choice of words. But if I was a noob and sort of very, very early and into my airsoft sort of playing days, it would have been a great and fantastic start. So yeah, just very, very polished, very organised, very engaging from the start. So top notch lads.
Mike, thank you. If I could have written that myself, I'd have said exactly what you've just said there as well. Thank you so much. That is really, really, it's like, I think what you tried to, I think we've put across there so eloquently is what we've tried to do is define. We've run 3 events this year. This is our third event this year, our second 24. And I think what we've tried to do is we've tried to evolve every time. We've tried to take on player feedback, and we've tried to listen and bring that to the fore and actually put you as customers, in your case, new customers, first, and to make everything set up beforehand so easy for you to actually turn on and come along and actually do our event. Basha, this wasn't your first Defiant event, mate, was it?
No, we've attended 3 Defiant events so far. Our first one we went to, which I'm struggling to actually remember the name. I don't know if Nathan can remember, but unfortunately it wasn't an event that went too well.
Yeah, we don't talk about that one.
Yeah, so maybe it's the one that shouldn't be mentioned, but I kind of want to...
Maybe talk about your second one.
What was that? Operation Voldemort.
No, it was literally called Operation Backlash, of which there was lots.
Oh, Backlash.
Yeah.
Nathan, this is an edit point. So, Basha, you've done 3 events. You've done 2 in the last year or so with us. Tell us about those ones.
In fairness, though, Basha, you can see how we've tried to improve from conception.
This is where I was sort of going with the conversation, to be fair. I just sort of wanted to bring that event up. I know, obviously, you guys don't want it brought back up, but in a sense, like, you got to turn that into a positive, because that was our first event. It didn't go well. At the same time, we could see the professionalism in the company and you individuals obviously running it, the DS, and Kevin mentioned evolving, and that's exactly what happened from that event. We knew that it wasn't your guys' fault, and we took that on and we went to the second event, and the second event was probably one of the best events we've ever attended in the 8 years that we've been playing together. So it just shows that you guys, the professionalism of it all, and off the back of what Mike was saying, that how you can adapt to that situation and pull off an absolute blinding event. And then straight followed up by the third one that we went to, which was this one, which was another amazing event again. So we're definitely happy that we stuck with you guys and attended the second 2 events after. So great testament to you guys for that, definitely.
No, Basha, that your words and what Mike has said is exactly. Obviously, Defiant have been through run for about 2 or 3 years. And this year, 2021, we've been really lucky. We put our first event straight. The first day airsoft sites open after the lockdown. In April, we got our first 8 hour. Then we managed to do 2 hours, and we've managed to move forward and stuff as well. So, your comments completely, take them on board. Completely appreciate what you've said, Mike. Same as well. I say hopefully what we're putting forward now, what Defiant event says at the end of 2021, I suppose the thing we should turn around and say tonight is that was our third event of this year, and as it stands at the moment, we're not running any further events this year. We're currently working on our calendar for 2022, and hope we're in a position to start to make some announcements for events for 2022. Okay, guys, so what I'd like to do is take us on to the event itself. So just a little bit of, I suppose, everyone wants to talk about the events, the firefights, the missions, the night vision, etc., etc. Mike, can I just take a couple of minutes about you're coming to the event, booking in, checking in, and stuff as well. Just give us your perception on that as well. Coming to us as a new player for the first time, how was that for you at the start of the event?
Yeah, and again, look, it's all positives. It was very, very slick. We arrive, we follow the destination on sat-nav, we get to where we need to be. Very much sort of, getting out the car, greeted by you guys. It was quite clear where, we had to sign on and what we needed to do. And I think from there, what again, upon reflection and really impressive was, very, very quickly you are, as we said, signed on, and then that's it. You off you go, get in your car and you go to where you need to meet the other guys in Opfor. So actually from there, we didn't really get a lot of time to spend with any of the guys from Task Force, which again was a really good thing. So the first time we met them was out on the field. But again, very, very straightforward. You sign in, it's very, very clear what the next steps are. You then go into a bit of a sort of generalized parking area, and then from then you are transported out into the field and to where you're going to be set up. Just a very, very slick affair. And as I said, upon reflection, again, whether it was deliberate or not, and I'm sure it was, to try and keep the distance between Task Force and Opfor from the very outset, just made for a real decent bit of immersion.
Yeah, Mike, that's exactly what we tried to do. Is obviously we had Task Force booking into FOB and staying there on the Friday night or Saturday morning. We wanted Opfor to get up, drop the cars off, and we obviously started to ferry your kit into the site. The idea behind that was to make sure that we don't see each other. We want to keep a little bit of a distance. We know is DS, number of people on each side, but what we want to do is we want to keep our players guessing. We want them to think about, how many Task Force are there, how many Opfor are there, what weapons have they got, what bits and pieces. Not really a great fan of the idea of everyone's in the safe zone together, and you turn around, you clock, okay, there's 4 guys with ghillie suits, there's 8 guys with sniper rifles, there's 15 support weapons, etc., etc. There's so many tag launch as well. We want to try and keep our players just guessing a little bit what the other side have actually got and what have they got to do as well. Then, so no, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Basha, for you, mate, in the FOB, what was it like for you on the sort of Saturday morning?
It was a nice little setup that was there. We got in there, we found a little space that suited us. We immediately realized this was an area that was potential for attack or defend. And some of the benches were moved into more convenient positions to defend. On the Saturday morning, we spoke to everyone. We've now got a bit of a rapport with James and Nathan. Well, we didn't really get to see Nathan, which, like you said, I just want to back up what you said about not having the teams together. Fantastic idea. No one wants to know who the enemy is until they're, on the field and you're facing them. That's a really good aspect of it. Speaking to James, obviously it's easy to know for new players or some of the players that are with us, it's easy to know that James is one of the boss men because of his demeanour, which is really good. Straight away speak to James, get an idea of what's going on, and get set up. It's always a very easy process when coming to a defiant event. It's very well set out and nice and easy, nice and calm.
No, really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, so you guys have given the reason for coming to our events. You've given a little bit of a synopsis of the start of the event, so people get a flavour for arriving at a defiant event, what it's going to be like playing for Opfor, playing for Task Force for one of our events moving forward. So what we want to do is move on into the first of So what I'll basically say is, Mike and for Basha, just try and think about the first sort of 3 hours, that kind of 11 o'clock to kind of say 2 o'clock in the afternoon sort of period of time. So I'll go with you, Basha, from a task force point of view as well then. So that about 11 o'clock to that's at 2 p.m. What were task force doing, and what were you doing in that period of time? Just to give our players our customers a little bit of an idea of the start of our events, because we deliberately, because we know it's a 24-hour event, or we're looking maybe next year to do a 36-hour event. I've just dropped that one in just sort of subtly. So on those first few hours, what did
That's
you do?
as subtle as you do, is it, Kevin? Just announce it. is that Scottish subtlety?
I did it with a smile. Does that count? So yeah, I didn't say where. I just said we're thinking about it for next year. Because something Mike mentioned. So yeah. So okay, Basha. In the first sort of 3 hours, what were task force doing? What were you doing in that sort of period of time? And how did that sort of start to sort of set up the event and a bit of an idea for you for the event going forward?
Yeah, so straight away, obviously, everyone was kitted up out the gates, and a basic security perimeter was put up around the fob with a different team sort of around it, sort of familiarising with ourselves with the ground, and what's around them, what cover there is, that sort of stuff. The TLs were pulled in for a bit of a brief. Well, firstly, the TLs got together, and we had to sort of think of a plan for Stag. Which was good, very proactive. James come to us and was like, right, as the TLs, you need to come up with a plan together, work together, talk together, which straight away breaks that ice between the TLs themselves. So that was a great thing to do, great start. Obviously, we went out, we done a quick perimeter check, we found the weaknesses, we found the strengths of where we were camping and where we was held up, and from there we formulated a plan how to defend. When under attack, best routes out of the COP, and how the Stag rotations would work, because there was one team, my team and another team that were fairly manned up. I think there was sort of like 9 to 10 players, and the other two call signs didn't quite have as many. So a plan was sort of devised that the Stag would always have a fair amount of bodies on. And there was a bit of a swap of players between the teams, which is always good, and it gets people talking and friendly and knowing each other, which is always nice. From there, my section then was tasked to Village A, I believe it was, to move to Village A and basically just carry out a sort of recon, find out what's in that area, what's in that woodland area at the top of the map, and see what's going on in the village. I mean, we knew there was civvy population around the area. We just wanted to see how many, if any of them are carrying weaponry, and if we could see anything like that on the line.
Oh, sweet. So, little bit on the backstory we would actually use for one of our events. So we said that the rules of engagement, and we like to make things slightly challenging for our players. So around about the village areas, Opfor, as we could carry weapons, but we weren't allowed to carry support guns, tag launchers, mortars, and webbing. But we were allowed to carry our longs, and we had that in that sort of defensive, protect yourself type position. But if we moved outside of that area, then we would become a threat towards task force and things as well at that period of time. Mike, was that your first time at Dog Tag for an event of any type at all then, yeah?
Absolutely. First time there for any type of event.
So the first of 2-3 hours, that kind of 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock, what did you do in that period of time?
So I suppose, like all good airsofters, I fannied around with my kit for a good amount of time.
Good man. Yeah.
But outside of that, so I think there was a couple of bits for us. I think it was, our rage free when there's a bit of a civvy pop. and there was a couple of bits in there. So I think first was for a little bit of familiarisation of the site. So being Civ Pop gave us the opportunity to go and do that, just to walk the entire site, or certainly the playing area for during the daylight hours, just to get around. I think as part of that was just to go and have a little bit of a peek, sort of a peek and sneak at what's task force are up to, go and probe their forward operating base, see what's going on. I think obviously within that there was some sort of sub-tasking just to try and get numbers, to understand how many numbers there were from task force, what their sort of defences were like if we went up to the front gates, how quickly was we sort of met by forces. And then I think obviously one of the big things leading up towards 2 o'clock was to set up a bit of a marketplace. So us as Rage Free, along with some of the other factions within Opfor, all had contributed to setting up a bit of an ad hoc sort of market area, what with sort of second-hand weapons caches, refreshments, etc., to get that sort of set up, so we can sort of use that as an opportunity to meet and greet our local task force team, and potentially set up for ambushes and really start to help drive the storyline forward with an initial meeting between the village elders and the task force. So yeah, that was pretty much most of our sort of morning gone. I think, as mentioned, being sort of new to the site, we took the opportunity just to sort of corral anyone that hadn't been to the site before, just to come out with us and just have a walk and a probe, and just to sort of understand where the sort of lay of the land will be, and where the fighting areas will be.
No, Mike, absolutely perfect. That's, from an Opfor point of view, one or two of our teams had been on the site before, they knew it, and they were quite keen to get out there, maybe with guns or maybe a little bit early and stuff. But obviously, like guys yourself who hadn't been there before, that whole part was set up just to give you guys the chance to get a feel of the land and whatever else.
Basha, at any point during the morning during the event, were you introduced to the local paramilitary forces? Did you have any introduction with them, or did you go on any patrols with them?
No, not in the morning. We were pretty much straight boots on the ground, and we took into the woodland straight up to the A village, where we met the Civ Pop and started mingling with them from there. So no, we didn't meet any of the paramilitary at that point.
You clearly weren't blessed enough. No, they did some great roleplay work. In fairness, they were quite comical at times, but yeah, they had some valuable intel to share that I'm not going to say helped us on the op as much as hindered, but they had intel to share nonetheless.
James, do you want to spend a little bit of time to obviously, we basically had two teams, pretty much equal numbers. Do you want to talk a little bit about this idea of this sort of paramilitary team that were put with task force, and what their role was, not linking towards anything else in sort of real life, but what their role was, and how well they actually did that.
So yeah, part of the situation brief that was provided to the task force teams was that their primary role in country was to support the efforts of the local paramilitary forces, in order to act against a recent insurgency within the area of operations. So, although our representative from task force here, from Section 3, may not have met with them, at least early on in the event, straight out the doors, we sent a team down to liaise with them. They met them. The team we used there were members of the Whiskey Tribe, fantastic role players, really, really dedicated guys. They did some role play. They provided some intel, some actionable intel. Although it was not actionable. It was fragments.
Questionable.
It was fragments of intel that we then had to build on throughout that day. We obviously need to learn what their requirements were, what arms they had, what capabilities they had. The team leader that actually went to liaise with them was from Section 2. In short, they were incompetent and ineffective. I think that was the phrase that was used to describe the paramilitary force guys. But yeah, we had to support them in their taskings, and we went about that. Although I get the feeling that there was an element of distrust from a few of the task force guys. It was reported to me from the paramilitary teams that they had been asked to remove magazines from weapons and such. So there was definitely an element of distrust there, which I ended up with a majority of the task force out in front of me and issued nearly said a swear. I issued what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of disciplinary action on how to treat your partner forces. Basically stomped it into their brains that they had to work together, that there was no reason to have any mistrust with them. From that point, I believe that we were doing joint patrols alongside them.
Yeah, and I think obviously people that might not have seen that, and that's the thing. It's like one of the things that we tried to do at Defiant is we tried to take like real world situations and mix them into our sort of fantasy airsoft world in a way which actually has got that sort of like as I said, that link toward real world. So task force would have seen this paramilitary unit, been very, very concerned about them.
What, doing negligent discharges out the front of the gate? With blank rounds.
blank rounds. And the fact they actually probably provided Opfor with pictures of your command board, your teams, your call signs, your stag rotas, etc., that they actually sent us on pictures on our WhatsApp. So we actually got a lot of information from them doing this sort of supposed.
You mean we weren't to trust them?
Well, honestly, and this is the thing. Obviously, at some point, the boys from Whiskey Tribe will hopefully listen into this as well. I just want to turn around and say, from working with Nathan on Opfor, and I think from a complete Defiant point of view, is they came along to the event, they played a role, they did that part through the afternoon. Mike and all of our players came along and they did their civ pop bits, pieces, stuff, things well, and we had so many people played their role on our event on those early hours. But Mike in the evening with his night vision, his thermal, Whiskey Tribe with the bits pieces doing one of their ops later on the night. Everyone got their trigger on. Everyone got a good firefight as well. But everyone in Opfor really mucked in. They took a little bit of time. They played the role. They came along with the right attitude. They did the right thing that what Defiant's all about, and they contributed towards the experience and the event. And Mike and Rage 3, Whiskey Tribe, the other boys that come along as well, Grey Fox, the other Rage call signs as well, all of them, everyone played their event, played their part and contributed towards the weekend. So, everyone contributed towards everyone's actual enjoyment as well then.
I think that's one of the core values, or one of the values that we try and instill into our events, is that it is about the event for everybody, not necessarily you getting into a firefight at that one particular time or you chasing down firefights. It's the long game. It's if you view the event as an entirety rather than short snippets, you will enjoy it more.
Yeah. So, it's that little bit. You go to the cinema, you watch a movie, you spend the first 10, 15 minutes, you think, meh, not for me. But you walk out the cinema at the end of that, it's like 2 hour, or in our case, a 24-hour event, and you think that was a great film. I really enjoyed it. I had a great experience. If it's concerts or music or plays, whatever else, you walk out, you paid your money, and you think, I've had a really, really good experience at the end of it as well then. So if we roll back into the event itself, obviously we're going through those first sort of 3 hours. Mike, round about 2:00 in the afternoon, we had a meeting at the market. Do you want to talk a little bit about your team and their involvement towards the meeting at the market? And then after that, we can go to Basha, and maybe James might say a little bit about that too. for that meeting at 2:00 we had.
Yep, sure. So I think first and foremost, the 2:00 meeting was very much about progressing the storyline, keeping the storyline alive, and then starting to set up what's going to be happening, which was probably a bit more action orientated in the afternoon. So I think, as you mentioned, there was a meeting in the market area at 2:00. So that was a meeting amongst the village elders as well as task force, and no surprises, task force brought a big force with them as well. So I think that was the first sort of proper eyes on each other type of meeting. I think us as insurgents, we had a marketplace, but equally there was a very, very large stash of weapons, ammunition, some of it blatantly on display for sale secondhand, and some of it quite clearly stashed. And I think the idea being was, to try and maintain that fragile relationship between the two forces, but I think equally for both sides, just to sort of, give a little bit of flex. That was probably the first time that task force were greeted by the entirety of the Opfor team. The Opfor team, by and large, were armed with weapons, however, not wearing rigs, etc. And obviously, task force rolled out with all of their weapons as well. So I think it was very much about, as we said, just establishing the boundaries between both sides, continuing the storyline, but obviously equally giving both sides the opportunity for a little bit of flex as well. And I think obviously from then, agreements were made between the elders and the task force. Cups of tea were exchanged, some refreshing soft drinks and energy drinks were exchanged on both sides, which I think went down well. And obviously that then set up the scene for a bit more of an action orientated afternoon with again tasking which kept the storyline alive, which then started to play into the evening.
Basha, what was your take? Were you involved with that meeting we had in the afternoon? Were you there, part of your section?
Yeah. So my section, when we first got there, put up a perimeter around the front of the marketplace. From there, Dragar brought in a small security force, which was myself and Sooty, both from my call sign. We went in, and it was a tense situation. It was orchestrated really well. You guys were able to put the tensity on it like a lot. It was a good building. You had the high ground for everyone to stand on and stare at you, and for just three people to go in there and everyone holding weapons was it was good. It put a good atmosphere. Well, I say good atmosphere, a scary atmosphere, should I put it? And it brought it home a little bit, because obviously task force has got confidence, and when you're put in that situation, it breaks that down a little bit, which is good. It's the whole point of it. Both me and Sooty looked at each other and was like, okay, we got to do this properly, so don't put your feet on the mat. You know what I mean? Just go down properly. We both didn't drink until the elder drank his tea, and just stuff like that, just trying to get in the be respectful for the local culture as such, in a role play sort of mindset. And I don't know what that tea was, but
that tea, I'll have you know, is extremely expensive tea that was directly flown from India, and it was absolutely rank.
It was an experience.
It was Indian rose tea, and it basically tasted like piss water and urinal cakes.
Yeah, Nathan kept giving me like cups of it to drink. I was like, "No, you got to stop."
More, mate. Come on.
I must admit, I actually became a bit of an acquired taste towards the end of the weekend. No, honestly, it's like, Mike, Basha, thank you for that. It's like, what we try to do is obviously, we try to have that kind of that slow, gradual build up. Obviously, we don't want people knackered. People want to come on, get trigger time, dead, really, really early. But it's like, I remember Tom came in there as well, who was sort of James 2 IC for the weekend. Bash as well, and the guys walking in Sooty. It was a case like everyone was looking round, and it was like, it was a real squeaky bum moment. All right, it was really, really funny to watch. Right, we were sitting there, everyone's guns was safety, mags were empty, etc. It was done as an intimidation, right? But it was that idea that you bring in a team in to have this dialogue, and it was for funerals, which was part of the story and stuff and things as well. But the whole idea was it just built up. Some of the pictures that Jack's taken as well, you've got task force outside with like sniper rifles and longs and scopes all looking in on that and things as well. You've got teams passing out cans of drink, and I think it was Grey Fox. It was like the one with the black dot on the lid was the safe one. It was sugar. The other one was like salt water. One of their guys actually worked for a brewery, and he got these made up. Some were like kind of sugar and water drinks. Other ones were salt and water. And I know a story of the guys from Task Force taking the salty one back and opening up to drink later on the Saturday night and turning it to be like salt water. So, you know, it's like from Grey Fox boys putting that in, our team putting the weapons up, people doing like Coke cans and bits and pieces just to create that sort of market. For an event, but just to make that intimidation of putting like all of Opfor round about the side was for me was one of the things I wanted to do to like build up the tempo, build up the adrenaline, build up the atmosphere for the event moving forward.
Unfortunately for that bit, I remained back at the combat outpost because I had some administration work to take care of. But the feedback I got was that it was extremely imposing, and I could visually see that some of the swagger had been knocked out of Task Force, which, in fairness, wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Because I think Task Force can get, you know, a little bit bolshy. You know, we're the multicams, we're the good guys. And sometimes forget the situation brief that they've been put in. They're in another country. It's not their country. They have to live by other people's rules. So I think it was, it was a good situation for them to be faced with.
Yeah, it's like obviously there's different people we all know through this hobby and sport things who actually serve for real and stuff as well, and they're put in situations where they are part of their like pre-deployment training is put in situations as well. So not saying anywhere in the world what we're doing is the same as that, but just to make some of our players think about the situation. And say when we did our event down at Worthing a couple of months ago as well, you know, we always try to put parts of our event which make our players on both sides really think about putting the hand on the trigger and firing their gun during that event, and to try and think. So the huge component I would say, you know, all the way through for this event and previous events is our players are coming to our events with the right mindset at Opfor and Task Force, and they're actually thinking about the situation and they're buying into it. And the feedback we've had has been superb. But you know, they don't want that huge firefight all the time. They really take on that as well. So, Mike, go back to you then. So, as part of Rage 3, after the meeting we had and after the funeral, I contacted you and your team for a bit of a knock. Do you want to run us through what that up was? That was about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock on the Saturday afternoon. Just tell us what happened during that one, please.
Certainly. So I think obviously at that point we was asked to pick up the weapons, sort of, you know, and start to sort of interfere and sort of cause a bit of interference. So for us, it was a small group of us sort of going down to sort of the lower part of the site, just sort of again, sort of, you know, starting to test task force defences, see where they're sort of set up, try and obviously again sort of understand numbers and see if we could pick up any intel. Really led to a couple of sporadic firefights, which is always fun. Led to us obviously just firing a few sort of tags into their compound, again just to keep the guys on their toes, just to make sure that they're not too comfortable and enjoying their creature comforts too much. And obviously, yeah, just obviously test that for a little bit. And then obviously after that, it was about obviously escorting yourself, Kev, obviously as one of the characters within the game, obviously just to meet up with the Green Force, and again obviously just try and sort of hold back the task force, really, which again sort of meant for some decent firefights on both sides across what we know as Zombieland in the dog tag sites, and obviously sort of led to a real standoff for a lot of tags being fired left and right, which one that landed literally 2 foot from where I was standing. So that was me out of the game for a little bit.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's like, yeah, so thanks, Mike. It's like, from our point of view is, you know, we run through our kind of role play bits, space and things well, but we try to build in a part of the story get our players involved from both sides, and that was obviously the first kind of like piece of sort of actionable intel that task force would have that something was going to happen around about that sort of time. And unfortunately, despite Mike and Rage 3's best effort, I was taken out, and my laptop. And actually, I was going to say to him that I did a great job. It was about an hour and a half around the site, and eventually I was taken out. So yeah, so Basha, because you both you guys, both Mike and Basha, were on the same time you got from that operation.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to recall a little. Just correct me if I'm wrong in any sort of order here. But basically, yeah, we got the intel that there will be a courier moving through a certain section of the map, which I believe they call the Poppy Field. And we were basically to set up an ambush on that courier and obtain the goods that we were after. So my team moved down into there. We got in our positions, got nice and comfy. We formulated a plan. Obviously, a tag round would start our ambush, and from there we would assault and close down the courier from there. We sat there for a while, and then we were in radio silence at the time, and time went on and on and on, and nothing was going on, and we thought, okay, something's a bit shady here. Eventually, we see some bodies come out of the tree line, and unfortunately, they did not take the planned route of going straight down the middle, which should have been obvious, I suppose. They come in. They obviously got a bit spooked, and they backed out of the poppy field and took an outside approach. At that point, we had radio communication come through that. Well, no, sorry. Apologies. We come together as a team, and we were like, right, okay, this hasn't gone the way we want it to. Let's pull out these locations, and we were gonna pull back, go around the right hand side, and try and meet them and engage it. We still wanted the element of surprise on them, and we didn't know if they knew our position, so we wanted to mix it up and get moving. We then had command come through and tell us that basically the ISR had said that the courier may take a second pass in the area that we was in. We repositioned, got back into the positions that we were in with a few adjustments, because we knew that they were going to take a different approach on us, coming from a different angle. So we pushed all of our guns to the left-hand side and loaded up another tag launcher. So we had 2 active tag launchers ready to go. While we were waiting, a few rounds then started to come in. Obviously, our position was compromised. We returned fire into the positions where we thought the fire was coming from. Although these boys were hidden, they were using the cover very well and the woodland well, and we were struggling to locate them. One tag launcher unfortunately failed, and we were down to, I believe, just George's tag launcher. That he was trying to put out rounds, but at the same time they had our heads down in the dirt, and we were in very heavy woodland because we expected an ambush, so we was proper like covered up in leaves and getting tangled up, and now we needed to move quick. We were stuck. We started taking the odd casualty, and we knew that we had to basically get these guys up and get the hell out of there. We weren't going to win the gunfight. So we popped some smokes out, and we started moving our guys back to the mouth of the poppy field where we ran back. Once we got back, and at this point the QRF had also come in with a vehicle, which I believe got tagged in the first 30 seconds of arriving. They assisted us. Even though the vehicle was taken out, it's another distraction. It helped some of the muzzles off of our team, and it helped us move around a little bit more. We pulled back into the woodland just behind. We sat there for a little bit, and we sort of just kept eyes on. We didn't know if they were going to push us, So, but it turns out they didn't push us. We just held the line there. And then command came through and says, basically, you need to go find that courier that you've just lost. So we made the decision to shoot right. We shot right into this big open. It was like tall trees, no leaves, open ground, some nice little dotted bits of cover all the way down. It was a nice part of the map. And as we were going down there, we see movement at the end. So we thought, let's go. Like, we'll push. We push. So we pushed on. We got engaged in the firefight, which we're assuming is the same team that engages on the poppy field. At this point, we were pretty pissed off that our ambush had gone tits up, and we were playing more aggressive at this point. So we kept pushing. We kept launching the tags and slowly moving guys to the next cover, to the next cover, to the next cover. George, I'll say this how George said it. He see who he believed was the courier because we had the description of what they were wearing, or what Kevin was wearing, and we just see. Well, he said he see this man just duck. He just ducked down, and George went, "That's got to be him," and he ran, and he just come from the back, all the way from the back, and he ran all the way to the front. He sprinted and sprinted, and then he come left, and he see Kevin just lay on the floor, and then I think he I don't know how many rounds he put into him, but he took the target down. Yeah, we recovered the case that had the intel in it, and we did want to medic you up, Kevin, so we could take you home and ask you some more questions, but I don't think that wasn't part of the plan.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
So we left you there to bleed out, and we took your laptop. So, and we bugged out.
I was dead. Mike, obviously, I was sitting there early on the Saturday afternoon. I turned around to you and your boys, said, "Look, I want you guys to do an op." Do you want to run us through your take on that op when you were trying to protect my life and my laptop?
Yeah, and I think probably just to sort of go back over some of the earlier points, like you say, obviously, you're the courier, you're out on the ground. We need to do some sort of probing around. We sort of need to get from one side to the other, and obviously, if we are to be meeting any sort of enemy forces or friendly forces, but not enemies, then we are in a good position to engage. And look, I think Basha, put it really, really well. And from our side, look, we probably caught them a little bit before they caught us. I think, as Basha mentioned, from their perspective, they were trying to sort of move around to the left and right. And then at that point, we, as Rage 3, had hooked up with the Green Force team, who were backing us up, unbeknownst to Task Force. So we were sort of doing a good job of holding them back. I think, as Basha mentioned, the QRF turned up with a vehicle. We quickly took the vehicle out, but I think obviously from then they sort of upped their game. Whoever it was, let off an almighty smoke round, which absolutely smoked out the entire area, which really sort of gave them opportunity to suppress us, move forward, and then they rained down the tags. And I think it was a case of they had more tags than us at that point, and they done a great job. They done a great job, and they hit their targets and knocked our numbers out, and that was it. Obviously, you was taken, Kev.
Yeah, it's like the guy who's your point man. I can't remember his name. He was on point, and he as we approached the poppy field, he ID'd Task Force. So he's literally enemy down, hold thumb down, enemy towards the down, points out the direction, and then put rounds down and got the contact. So our point man basically. Started that action rather than us being ambushed by Task Force. It was our point man saw Task Force and actually engaged them first, which actually started that firefight. And it was an absolute cracking firefight. We did it. We bugged back. We had enough team and support for us that time as well. We then went back to the path. We tried to continue our route as well. I think it was down to it was about 3 of us at the latter part of that, I think, as well. But yeah, it was an absolute cracking firefight, and then finally Bash and his team were the ones that caught me under a tree stump as well. But we must have run that up for a good hour and a quarter. round about that part of the site as well. And it was great for you guys, Rage 3, Mike, to have a really good firefight, and great for Basha and Section 3 to get out there and have a really good scrap with everyone as well. So that really, from our sort of Defiant point of view, was the sort of like the sort of crescendo for the sort of Saturday afternoon of like, it's action on. There was the conversation at the meeting in the market that Task Force are here to support us, but obviously Task Force had slightly devious intentions, shall we call it, at this point and things as well. They were out for information, and they were out to actually try and get me at this point and gain the intel, which to lead them on into the sort of evening ops and stuff and things as well. So I suppose that takes us up to about 6 o'clock in the evening. So I'll go to Basha first of all on this one as well. So obviously, from a Defiant point of view, we were playing on what Dogtag called the paintball part of the site and stuff and things as well. Come sort of 1800, 1900 in the evening, 2000 in the evening, we obviously had access to the whole site. Basha, did you know that was happening? Or how was that perceived from a task force point of view that your area of operation was now, as we called it, across the border in a different country? How was that for you guys?
It was a pleasant surprise. Obviously, one of our opinions on the site was that we felt like it could have been a bit bigger for what you guys were trying to achieve. And when you came out, when James obviously did the TL brief and was like, actually, this is what's happening. This is all opened up. Like, do you know what I mean? It was like, okay, this is going down now. Like, this is big. This is a lot more sort of legwork involved. And a lot more endurance and stamina's involved now. Unfortunately, which my team at the time was running out of. But it definitely put a curveball. And it really opened it up. And it's a pleasant surprise. So we definitely enjoyed that. So.
No, Basha, fantastic. Mike, you guys stayed in your sort of area of operation because you guys were pretty much set up on that area. Did you get a chance to move across the border come Saturday evening, Saturday night?
We did, yeah, absolutely. So
Good,
I think equally we was, it was good, and we was all dug in and set up on Village B, and we was happy to be told that we're staying there for the duration. But then equally, obviously, for wanting to get out on the night ops as we always do, to have that other area, which was a vast area as well with more structures, more areas of interest, etc. Yeah, so to get out and play the entire site in the evening was good. Really enjoyed it. And for newcomers to the site and not familiar with the site, it was still very easy to traverse the landscape, etc.
No, good. Yeah, from our point of view, is like we obviously sold it as here is the area of operation. Obviously, we had the arrangement with the site owner Ross and stuff at Dogtag that we could use the whole site, in the evening. So obviously gave a little bit of a surprise to everyone. So from a sort of Defiant point of view, it's like it was our kind of little like secret bit back in the pocket. I'm really glad that both Task Force and Opfor saw the benefit of that and were able to appreciate and actually kick on into the evening and actually have a really good time.
I think it brought an interesting dynamic to things because neither side had been over there at all. So there was no reconnaissance. There was nothing known. We had the opportunity just before last light to get drones overhead, get some footage and some photographs, from an aerial platform. But it was still quite densely wooded, and we couldn't pick up an awful lot. So we were operating with limited intelligence, limited reconnaissance value over there.
So James, you've led me in perfectly to what I wanted to talk about now. Then, obviously, once we got over the border, and after my courier character had been assassinated viciously by those demon task force,
I think it was well deserved.
Some people might disagree with that.
Basha, if you ever want the opportunity to slot Kevin again, just let me know.
I certainly will.
Basha, you're with me next time, mate. Trust me, you're with me next time. All right. So obviously I was slotted. My character was slotted, was taken out of the game. and there was intel bits pieces before. So James, from a task force control point of view, what was your briefing once you got that intel towards task force, and then from that point of view, then let's go to Basha from what he did in that operation about sort of 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock on Saturday evening. So James, give us the task force overview at that point.
So you're putting me on the spot now, because I've actually
Definitely.
only recently rubbed out or removed my my briefing from my my orders pack. So we had captured a load of electronic assets, so mobile phones, laptops, also some hard copies. We basically had a note with a list of names on it as well. But from the intelligence pulled from the IT assets, we were able to determine the location, or the probable location, of the curious residence. And so that was our first target. I think it was about 8 o'clock that I put the brief together in order to hit this target building located in the adjacent AO. We got permission from the battle space commander of that AO to operate over the border. And so yeah, the briefing was given as to the positions pulled from the IT assets that identified a target building in the adjacent AO. We got permission to operate in that AO from the battle space commander, and we had we orchestrated a strike. So I worked with the TLs with the limited intelligence that was available to us to put in a plan of action, order of march as to who would be where, what role each section would be fulfilling in order to put together this strike. We did have some aerial footage of the area. We did have a good idea of the building that we were looking for. We did know that building would be secured, and therefore an explosive breach would be required, or potentially required. So we kitted out the breacher from 2 section with the assets that he would need in order to basically blow some locks off some doors, and that's it. Yeah. After that, the TLs went away, and they passed on that information onto their sections. Everybody kitted up, formed up, moved out.
So yeah, so come that first stop, Opfor, I was pretty much on this of what we called the MSR, and I think I spoke to Mike on there as well, because we were literally swarming that area, trying to figure out where task force were going to come from. So James, do you want to? Basha, do you want to take a couple of minutes just to talk about the route you took in? Because I've seen some of the footage, and it looks very, very kind of like First World War trench type sort of footage and stuff and things. Well, just talk through the route that task force took in to actually get to the building which was the target for you guys on Saturday at 8 o'clock on Saturday evening.
Yeah, I'll start from pretty much the TL brief, really, because another good point I sort of wanted to put across was we were given the same scenario that we sort of got in the morning. The TLs were told to get together. We were told where the target package was, and we were sort of given rough ideas as where the entrances are to that location. But once again, it was down to the TLs between them to sort of devise a little bit of a plan, and how they each wanted their sections to move. So once again, communication between the TLs, how they want to sort of go about that, which was good. It's nice to get an opportunity as a TL, not to just be told what you're doing, but to also come together with other TLs to make a decision on how you're going to do it. It gives you that.
So one of the things that we wanted to do was create the opportunity for you guys to think rather than be told what you're doing. You're told the required outcome and the situation, and basically put the op together yourself.
Yeah, exactly, and that was fresh. That was nice and fresh, and especially from obviously a TL point of view. that was nice. It was very nice. It got the TLs a bit more involved than I think they normally do in these sort of events, and yeah, it gets people talking again. We're all there to socialise as well. So it was nice to get talking with other lads within the sport. So once we knew what we were doing, we agreed on which directions our sections would be taking, and where best we could sort of put our guns. Although I don't think it all went to plan, because as soon as we got to the top of the road, there's like a crossroads at the top, and where I believe some of the sections were going to peel left, and my section and another one were going to go right, or something along them lines. I can't quite remember. Unfortunately, we took contact from the left down road, which straight away put a halt in our stride, because we were obviously getting up there, racing up there. Suddenly, bang, contact from that left road. And we needed guys over the road. So it was smoke out again, covering fire. And at this point, the entire task force element that had gone to carry out this operation was now all going in the same direction. We all went up this road, and yeah, we got to some sort of trench, World War One trench looking sort of area, which was very cool. Yeah, it's very, very well made. And so we proceeded through that area. At this point, we got to the sort of embankment where we could see roughly some buildings. You could see where the area started building up. So you could see like wood planks being left on the floor and that sort of thing. So you knew you was in the right sort of area. At this point, the nods went down, and we were the task force generally split themselves a little bit more now, because we didn't want to roll into like hard into one area. So as we entered the woodlands, different parts of the section started now splitting off to try and get some more angles on the village. It was a hard firefight. Well, I say we got into the village. We located the target building. Section 2's breach had done his thing, got in there, and then we got caught in a heavy firefight. It was a very muggy night, and it was caught like it was a hard firefight. It was good, but very hard. Yeah, that was it was a heavy firefight from there. I kind of want to know what Opfor's sort of view is on that firefight. Actually, I don't know if anyone can say.
Mike, I think I was chatting to you on the road. We called it the MSR. We were slightly to the right of that. I think probably around about the time the attack went in on the target building. Do you get any recollections of that sort of that's like 10-15 minute period of the evening?
We was probably more at the back end, so I think
Yeah.
as Basha has mentioned, obviously at the end, task force were overrun, and we was part of that collective that helped overrun. So I think we was a little bit late to the party. I think task force beat us to their objective very, very quickly and got what they needed, and I think some of them fell back. However, obviously myself and a couple of others were exceptionally armed for night fighting, and we sort of just turned up and cleared through those ranks very, very quickly. So yeah, we heard a lot of it, and we helped just obviously finish it off at the back end, but probably wasn't involved in the main part of it. But we're very, very aware that we was late to the party and missed a little bit of it. But I think it was from there that obviously we then sort of fell into our own. We obviously then knew where the second objective was for task force. So I think again a decent sized and well equipped unit went to that particular area, which was around the downed helicopter area. And we dug in, and there was a big force that was dug in for quite some time as well. So yeah, we did obviously get a good part of that.
Yeah, I must admit, task force did a stonking job on that one. They came round via the trenches. All of Opfor at that point seemed to be between what you'd now call the site this of the airsoft safe zone, and to sort of the right of that, if you're looking towards where task force were coming from. But they came via those trenches up behind the car park area and got round, and obviously we've got a company, Airsoft Gizmo. He's doing our little breach best piece. He's doing like 3D printed parts for us as well, and Flashbang Smoke are doing decks for us and things as well. So we're getting little assets, little bits and pieces in there, which give our players the chance to do those like explosive breaches on bolts. What we're trying to do is put the pictures up on there. Maybe is put this up as well so people can see the sort of before and after pictures of those and things as well. Which is the team that actually broke into that place. And
we've actually got a bit of we got a bit of film footage of that breach and the entry.
It was perfect, yeah. Yeah. So basically, our idea is obviously this is actually just try and share footage. Some of it's going on Instagram, some on Facebook, so forth and things as well. So okay,
the team that made entry into that building, they had 3 sections surrounding them that were there to give security. They were carrying out SSE. So there was a heap load more electronic assets in there that they were trying to put into various pockets, plastic bags, whatever. They had a real old school PC that I think weighed about 15 kilo. So they all I know is when they returned back to that combat outpost, there was a lot of dead players, but all of those guys that did the SSE stuff, they were all still alive. They had, the teams that put the security down definitely did the job. These guys came back knackered, like they just absolutely hoofed it back.
Yeah, and I think from an Opfor point of view, it's like that op was a huge success for Task Force. Actually getting out there on the Saturday evening. Obviously, after the courier, that was probably the first engagement, but that is the major op of the evening. For me, it was like an absolutely massive Task Force achievement and success. We didn't know where we were coming from. We were trying to cover paths. We saw people in the MSR. We saw people moving. There was enough diversions to keep us sort of guessing to see where we were coming from. But that was huge. Obviously, from the sort of Defiant Command net, I knew you guys had taken it. I say nothing towards Opfor at that point as well. And I know teams got engaged, and there was a lot of follow up. There was some, there's a pretty heavy body count, I think, going after that as well. But as you said, James, the guys that got the assets, got them out and got them back to you, which was an absolutely huge task force success at that point as well then. So that took us through the Saturday evening, and we came on towards sort of Saturday night. What I'm going to do, I'm going to talk through just generally about Saturday night as a kind of one piece sort of monologue from my point of view and stuff and things as well. And then I'll go to both teams' perspectives for the sort of Sunday morning towards the end, because we want to keep this slightly condensed. So we had a couple of operations in the evening, Saturday night. And I think from that first stop, say Task Force had a huge success. But the firefights that followed on from that really proved how equally balanced the whole event was. And I think one of the things that defined, and Mike and Basha can speak up for this in a second as well. Then I think one of the things that Defiant is becoming more and more well known for is the fact that nothing's actually predetermined. It really comes down to the teams on the ground, and Opfor, if they win the firefight, they get the assets. If Task Force win the firefight, they get the assets. They get the recognition and reward at the end of it and stuff and things as well. So I think that's probably one of the things that really sort of, I feel sort of sets Defiant apart at the moment, is like, if we go into these pieces, and the storyline evolves from these pieces moving forward. So
I think we've all been involved in games in the past where Opfor are basically there to be targets for Task Force after a certain point. That's not what we're about. We want it to be even. I think, Mike, in your little live, sorry, that's a bit condescending. Sorry, your live the other night, you mentioned that there was an even spread of night vision devices and thermal devices across both sides. And that is what we look to do. I don't see the point in creating a fight that's one-sided. Nobody really enjoys that. And if you're in a task force and you do enjoy stomping people, then maybe defiant offence isn't for you. You actually have to impart a bit of skill, a bit of thought into what you do.
Yeah. So, Mike, talk us through your kind of take on Saturday evening. Obviously, we talked about that op as well, just through the latter parts of Saturday evening, and then we'll ask Basha for his take on Saturday evening as well.
Yeah, sure. So I think as you mentioned, Task Force done a cracking job getting to the objective first, taking the intel, getting it back, getting out. As we mentioned, we then obviously had a bit more of a force backing up the initial Opfor guys, so we could then just obviously beat them back and send them packing politely. And I think obviously from then we sort of then knew where the next objective was for Task Force. I think as I mentioned earlier, it was located around the downed helicopter, that particular area of the site. So we sort of in decent numbers headed into that particular area. And I think sort of after half an hour, 45 minutes, there wasn't too much going on. We was well fortified, so we thought, you know what, let's make something for this night, and let's go and knock at Task Force front door, really. So we sort of headed back out from that particular area, just by one of the main car parks, down one of the long woodland roads. Had some engagement along the way and sort of dispatched them probably at pace, and then we sort of pretty much went up to Task Force front doors. Put some rounds down, put some smoke in, done some terrorising, and all of a sudden a jeep with a very, very large gun being manned on the back of it comes around a corner. So instantly we all sort of dive into cover, just to sort of keep ourselves out of the way. By that time it's pitch black, and we've sort of found ourselves some decent canopy to sort of hide under, just obviously for waiting for the vehicles to sort of go through, really. So again, from our perspective, taking it to Task Force, taking it to the front door, dispatching any of their teams along the way. But again, as we said, we was met by a very, very large and resilient and well-armed force that sort of at that point pushed the small number of us back. And that for us is where pretty much our night finished. Unfortunately, one of our lads took a little bit of a tumble in the darkness, as can happen, and ended up sort of doing his knee a little bit, unfortunately. So we sort of popped on the red lights just to indicate that we was out of the game, and obviously some of the guys from Task Force supported as well, so a good bit of camaraderie just to get him back to Village B, and then from there, we sort of decided at that point it was about 11:30, knocking on midnight. We thought, that'll probably be enough for us. Just obviously, hang back with one of our own who's downed and just make sure he's in a good space and just keep his morale up, get a decent night's sort of kip and ready to fight in the morning.
And I must admit, he fought like a lion on Sunday morning as well, didn't he?
for such a big man, and Rob, for those who know him, Rob, he is a very, very large lad. He is, and that's not in girth, that's in size. He is
personality.
Yeah, absolutely. The guy's 6'6", 6'7". He's a big lad, big personality, like you say, and for him to go down like he did and literally throw his knee out, for him to sort of then wake up in the morning and say, you know what, by hook or crook, I'm going out, I'm tagging up, and I'm going to play part of this. Was tremendous respect to Rob for doing that.
Yeah, superb player, and as I said, all the guys at Rage 3, fantastic weekend for me as well. Then, Basha, do you want to talk us through Saturday night from a Task Force point of view, just through the ops you had in the evening and Saturday night?
Yeah, obviously after hitting the bomb maker's hut, or wherever it was, we was in high morale. We then had some more targets hit during the night, and they didn't go as well. The one I remember is the one that was at a caravan, or I believe it was some sort of static caravan. And we went with the tactic of quick pace, hard hit, basically just roll it on them and hopefully give them a tap. But it went quite the opposite. We rolled up. We got 2 jeeps loaded up with men, and a foot ground force behind it as well to come up on the rear. We got there, immediately started taking fire. We got out. I believe the Opfor lads had basically put this really bright light towards the front of the convoy, which was blinding. All the nods were any nod users that were looking that way obviously weren't as effective as they would have liked to have been. And there was some lads hidden away, posted on the left-hand side of where we parked up, just around the back of the caravan, whoever they were. Well played, because they gave a good firefight and they took some bodies from where they were. So fair play to them there. And yeah, we got smashed essentially. We were holding out. We was gonna bug out. We got to a point where the casualties stopped and we was able to return fire, and we were waiting for the ground unit to follow us up. Unfortunately, Opfor also hit the ground unit that were following up the convoy further down the road, and they were unfortunately unable to back us up. And as the firefight progressed, you could feel the sides closing in because the rounds started coming in from different directions. And yeah, you knew they were getting the sides on you, and at this point, only the cars were the cover. So it was made clear that had been, we'd essentially been wiped out. All the injured and the casualties were loaded up into the trucks, and we bugged out as quick as we could from that situation. So yeah, Opfor really gave us a hit there. One thing that did happen during this raid, when not all of my call sign went out on this, the gents that didn't have the nods or just needed to get their heads down for a little bit.
So Sooty went Benny boys. Is what happened.
Yeah, they went to bed. And when we got back, they went, "Oh, you've missed it." And we thought, "Hold up, you've been back here. What's going on?" And they said Opfor literally walked through the gate of the cop to say hello. And I remember, well, George said that Sooty got his bed and used it as a riot shield in order to start giving fire back to Opfor. So,
yeah, we in fairness, we did have a good little scrap back at the cop. It was
yeah,
it was good. It was yeah, the first that point was the first real poke into the cop by the Opfor. They got bodies inside. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they really kept on the pressure all night, and like I said, we'd got smashed on a raid outside the wall. We'd got back, and then we found out we'd been hit inside the wall. At this point, it was demoralising, obviously, and yeah, Opfor done a really good job of just keeping us on edge all the time. They definitely brought us from high morale to a more realistic view of what was going on. And then the constant raids at night. The stag, obviously we had a 3 till 5 in the morning stag, which was horrific.
The graveyard shift, yeah.
It was quite a bad one, and we took some firefights there, and there was quite a big firefight at some point in the night around the church area. I believe a team had managed to get on in the downstairs, and I had 2 lads in the tower itself, and I believe Grey Fox had made a move at that point on us, and they'd got into some good positions, and they definitely kept the pressure on all night. So fair play for that.
Yeah, no, I say from our point of view, obviously, okay, so 2 points of view. From a Defiant point of view, we'd set up our objectives for the evening, and there was no way that Opfor knew what objective was coming up next. There were sort of zone areas. So Opfor didn't know what time task force were going to come towards A, B, and C. So the credit to Opfor is they were staying alert, they were staying awake, they were patrolling, they were putting on sentries, they put on guards. So if task force came towards Opfor, they were actually seeing them and hence engaging for those firefights that you talk about tonight, Basha, as well. And I think, as James has said, it's like, from a Defiant point of view, is like we've got a cracking task force, right? Multicam guys playing events, but we've also got an absolute cracking Opfor who come to our events, and they play hard, they play to win, they play fair, and it makes, for me, I've played on with James and I, Nathan, whoever else, we've played in Opfor, we've played in task force, we've played on both sides. I think we can all say testament to the guys that play from both sides of for Defiant is everyone's got the right mindset, and everyone really sticks in for it as well. So the Saturday night, there was amazing firefights. We had them about 2000, I think it was midnight, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, or 2300, 2 o'clock in the morning. I think the one at 2 o'clock in the morning, I think there was only something about 7 or 8 Opfor on there as well, and a really defended position. But honestly, the whole Saturday night, there was great firefights, great hit taking, great playmanship from both sides all the way through the evening. Lasers, torches, etc. No bangs because of the site rules. It really was an amazing Saturday night for the people who played it and things as well. So, conscious of time, so coming on to Saturday morning, James, do you want to take a couple of minutes?
Sunday morning, mate. Say that again.
Sunday morning, my bad.
Your day out.
Okay, so on to Sunday morning, all right? On to Sunday morning now. James, do you want to talk through a little bit of the intel that you received leading into your briefing for Sunday morning that your TLs put together for Sunday morning?
Intel was received that there was a large number of insurgents gathering at the village that had been designated Bravo settlement. So we put together a reasonably large sized patrol to move out and intercept that. When that patrol rolled out, I didn't actually realise how few people left behind. Each team was supposed to provide, I can't remember now, it was one guy or two guys from each team to stay back in order to secure the cop. Anyway, it came to a position that was only two of them and me. The main force had moved up the AO onto Settlement Bravo and left little old me with two other guys back at base, as it were. So that's what I saw of it, and then I started getting contact reports through on command net that things were certainly kicking off up the top end.
Yeah, so obviously on Sunday morning, Task Force had their intel, their briefing, and Task Force, James, you're right in saying pretty much your entire force moved to a target location that you thought there was going to be a heavy and sustained enemy contact.
Yeah, that's right. And unfortunately, that left our cop a little bit lacking in defence, which in hindsight was not great. And that's something that I will be eager to keep tabs on going forward. Make sure that the security of our, whether it be a fob, a cop, or harbour, wherever we're moving from, that security is maintained. So that was a little bit of a learning point from me, just to ensure that those orders are understood and carried out all around.
Yeah, so I think talking a little bit on sort of like task force control, probably Nathan can maybe pop in here as well for a couple of seconds as well. Obviously, we had probed the fob over Saturday and Saturday night. But on the sort of storyline, obviously, you've got our task force fob moved into our country, your area of operation. And for our point of view was we wanted to knock that fob out and kick the invading force out of our country at this point, shall we say. When we had our recce teams, and they were actually saying there was a substantial force moving up what we call the MSR, moving around to one of our village, which was actually one of our regen points. We actually owned a very, very small team there for an ambush. But once we got the intel, there was a large force moving up there. I moved two other teams. I moved one team to support them, and I moved one team as a sort of almost like a blocking force halfway between. I think it was pretty much with Rage 3, where Mike might talk about that in a little bit as well for Sunday morning. So I put one team to support Mike in Rage 3, and I put one team just behind Mike, between Mike and the actual fob and things itself. So, Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about Sunday morning from your point of view, when all of a sudden we thought we might get a small convoy, but you had the entire task force attacking your position?
We certainly did, and I think at the time there was four of us. There was four.
I recall being four of you because I briefed you in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was four of us left in Village B, and then all of a sudden we're being told that the entire task force is rolling through, which was interesting. So we set up some remote debts, which unfortunately didn't go off. So we obviously had to sort of peg it at pace down the hill, but we still had a decent number of tags on us, to sort of then to start trying to hold back task force from sort of rolling through too quickly. Really, I think, as you mentioned, obviously there was another one of the Rage Opfor units that backed us up. So we did hold off the task force for a good while, but no surprises. We were just overrun in the end. They'd done a great job of beating us back to the market area, and then just dispatched the remaining Opfor guys before sort of rolling through to their final objective. But we was massively outnumbered, but it was great fun. We took our deaths honourably, and equally task force were magnanimous in sort of defeating us. So yeah, it was good. It was a good morning.
Yeah. So Mike, did you obviously with our rules you get hit, you bleed out, you go back to your respawn point. Did you go back in for the final assault on the fob?
We didn't, to be fair, at that point. I think obviously
No.
we was conscious that Rob within our team had quite a substantial journey back to Leicester, where he sort of drove down for the weekend. So we was like, we've been taken out, we're at the back end of the event, we're at the other end of the site. Task force have rolled through. We're just going to need to let this one play out for the event.
So, question is, how's Rob at the moment? Is he okay? Is he better?
He's in great spirits. I think obviously he's getting his knee looked at. I think it's a bit more of a long-standing problem, to be fair. But Rob is in good spirits. He's well up for the next event. He's equally well up for getting his leg sorted or his knee sorted. But yeah, he will be back. Thoroughly enjoyed the event. He's in good spirits and is looking forward to knocking on the doors once again.
Definitely. Okay, Basha. So Sunday morning, you guys up towards I suppose they call it on the site. It was one of our respawn points. It was called like on the SAM site on the the map and for dog tag. So talk us through what was your role on the Sunday morning, what were you doing, and take us through that op towards Index on Sunday morning, please, mate.
We joined. My section joined the major assault on the B village, and we moved towards that area. We try keeping quiet, as much as you can try and keep that many guys quiet. And we approached the location. We come up the two TL. Well, the TL was involved in the assault. We made a decision that my section will hold back, and once the firefight had engaged, we will take a rear sort of view on it and then go from there. The contact kicked off. My guys, we moved up and we see there was a bit of a firefight going on. We thought there was no point sort of joining that firefight, and we moved round for a large flank onto the village and the Opfor that were in it. Massive compliments to Mike, because 4 guys felt like 20 guys. Because when we got round there was large resistance. To say for 4 people, it definitely didn't feel like 4 people. And yeah, very, very well defended. The tags started coming in. At this point, I was starting to get some radio chatter that the fob was falling or under attack. And as the firefight progressed, the call was, "It's gonna fall. Get your ass back, basically." We got our injured sort of medicked in, and we made a hightail back to the fob. As we could see the situation where we were progressing. The team that was with us, the section that was with us, were getting through the Opfor resistance and pushing through. So we felt there was no need to provide any more support for them, and we decided to move back to the fob and make sure that it could be defended. Oh, apologies. On return, we found that unfortunately the I keep calling it a fob, it's a cop, sorry, had been taken by some very good Opfor players, and they had taken it out and put up some defences inside. Some benches were overturned, and they were barricade ready to take on any task force that have made their way back. On arrival, we found that the side that we were sleeping on, our benches that we'd so conveniently pushed against the fence, were now being used against us. And firstly, we had to take out some of the individuals on that side, which George and Jamie, or Buzz and Sideshows, you guys may know them, done a fantastic job at. On the other side, I believe James and some others were on the other side of the cop, which were moving round. So the task force now was pushing either side round. At this point, myself, GK, and Drager thought we're gonna have a quick run round to the back. When we got into the church, we thought the church was pretty quiet. Then we heard footsteps coming from upstairs. So while I held my rifle to the stairs and covered Drager, he slowly crawled up the stairs and popped a grenade over. Unfortunately, taking some rounds as well. So it was a trade-off. But we were glad to see that pretty much Opfor's command structure had just been obliterated in the top of the church, which was a nice win.
That was
so
I shot Tom Drager, and Tom's grenade blew up Nathan and myself at that point as well. So that really was a really sweet moment on the Sunday morning. A really nice feel, that one. That was good. That was good crack. I enjoyed that.
My ears are still ringing from that. Actually, that was loud. Ever come over the top?
Yeah.
It was loud.
We was pleasantly surprised. It was a bit of a morale booster because we've been taking a beating for the last obviously hours. So we then rejoined the main assault to retake the cop. At this point, we had blown. When I got to the breaching points on the side, which would be the east wall, as we were calling it, we made moves to try and get into there. We were throwing some pyro around the corners, trying to use smoke for distraction to help other task force members around the cop. But you couldn't get in. It was really well defended. They were using their angles really well, posting themselves in really tight spots, and using what they had to their advantage. So we then that side wall was then left a little bit, with the odd sort of casualty going down up for. We could see the numbers were slowly going down. But at the same time, we were unsure of the numbers that were really occupying the cop at the time. We got back round to the front, and now there was a line of task force up the front gate. There we set off. I believe James might be able to explain this bit a little bit more because I wasn't there. I believe one of my guys struggled to detonate the explosive required to get, and some hand signals had to be made to him of how to use it. Eventually that was set off, and we was able to get a nice position on the gate. So I grabbed the gate. Sideshow posted his rifle around the corner, and we were opening the gate at random times and changing our angles and just trying to get some shots inside. I think the same at the front gate. James and a couple of my boys and other members from the task force group were also using their angles at that front gate and getting rounds down. And then we see the opportunity to breach. So George went through the door, Sideshow went through the door, and some others went left and right. I remember looking right and seeing one of my guys sliding through the front gate on his knees. So that was interesting. And
My sliding buddy.
yeah, that's it.
So, yeah. I
He
think
tries to John Wicket.
it was.
So
It was quite an interesting breach because I think we went through all breach points at one time somehow
yeah,
without
yeah,
using a hell of a lot of comms. So I went through the main gate first, and I swept to my left, and I saw a bunch of heads behind an upturned table that put rounds towards me. So I went to ground and took cover and slid basically on the side of my face across the floor. Then picked up another target that took me out. Where your man, who was your guy that was sliding across his knees?
that'd be Prince Jordan. Our other Jordan. Prince. So
Prince,
yeah,
okay.
he's the slider.
So yeah, he came through at a bit of pace. Basically managed to pick up the angles to wipe out or to at least contact the remaining guys from that angle, supported by some more guys that had come through the main gate. I mean, I was dead at that point and had other things to think about, but it ended. I mean, I was looking at my watch at one point and thinking, I'm going to have to call this soon because this is going to get very tiresome, assaulting a heavily defendable position. We couldn't make entry, and then once I was down, I looked at the time again and I was like, okay, well, it's nearly done. And it seemed to go in a flash, but actually it was about half an hour.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
James, I think both of you, Basha, James, well, I think you've actually really made a point because we got to the point and the attack on there, it was pretty obvious task force were going to go back in. We got some teams back onto the FOB, the COB at that time as well, and we had to breach the doors to get into it, so it made it easier for you guys to get back into it at that point and things as well. So we got to about 10:30, 10:35, whatever spaces, and we called the index. So I suppose just to wrap up this evening, obviously if people are really busy and stuff, so what I would turn around and say is ask. Actually, I'm going to ask Nathan and James for their synopsis of the weekend. All right. So, James, first of all, from a task force point of view, what is your synopsis of the entire weekend at Dog Tag?
Are you asking from a perceived player perspective, or
No,
from an event organizer?
As a task force perspective, from task force point of
From
view.
task force, I think that the guys fought hard. They really did. The Saturday there was a lot of intelligence gathering, a lot of links made with the locals. Some interesting dynamics with the local paramilitary forces. That then led on to night ops, where although we had a couple of victories, task force certainly had their arses chewed up and spat out. But they bounced back. Task force definitely bounced back, and I think all credit to them for that. We were kept up periodically through the night. I don't think there was a period of more than about 40 minutes before we were probed or assaulted again. So there was limited sleep from our perspective, apart from Sooty. Sooty just slept away. It wasn't a problem for him.
With his adopted puppy, yeah.
That's it.
So Nathan,
the only time he stirred was when I physically kicked him, started to get out of his pit. But
yeah.
So Nathan, tonight you have been master of ceremony. You've been recording this and doing all bits space as well. So from a Opfor point of view, what would you like to say to our players at this event?
Well, I mean, first of all, obviously, I think one thing I would say is obviously thank you again for those of you that have returned. It's great for us when we see the same faces turn up. Equally, it's great that when we see new faces turn up. Again, I think credit to all the players that turned up. They kept the role play going. We didn't have any rounds fired before we kind of wanted them to. Again, I think we managed to push that right to its limit, and I think as with when we did Op Spectre, we all said the same thing, that we took it right to the limit before people started to actually get bored, and we took it right to that limit, and then players got their trigger on, and that sort of started off.
Didn't they just?
Yeah, the night was quite interesting. Obviously, Task Force didn't quite manage to find me as the bomb maker, so I was in a hut for about 2 hours.
Serve you right
at that point, but unfortunately, didn't manage to get me at the follow-on location. The morning was fantastic as well. Great to see Opfor attacking that cop and throwing a large amount of pyro, firing a lot of tag rounds.
I think from an overarching perspective, it was interesting to see that a majority of the event, Opfor were in a very defensive mode, at least for the main parts of the op. Yes, they were probing the cop, but for the main pieces of the op, they were very defensive until that Sunday morning, and it was like releasing the dogs. It really was. They were fierce.
Yeah, it was amazing to see, everybody having a great time again, and then obviously seeing all the feedback forms of, again, we all said this during the event. We were thinking, are people enjoying it? We all get into our heads quite a lot as DS, and we start questioning things. Why do we do this? Why do we do that? And then you read through the feedback, and then it completely changes your perspective. And I did enjoy it, as stressful as it is for us DS to run events, host events, plan events, turn up before everyone gets there, go home last, tidy up, take all the rubbish back to our houses that has to go in our actual bins. Do all that, all that stuff that people don't think happens. Makes it all worth it when we see the feedback forms. And again, as I said earlier to you, Mike, thanks for the kind words from the other day on your live. It really hits home that we're onto a winner, and we're on the right path, so to speak.
You're welcome.
No,
You're welcome.
Nathan, Mike, James, Basha, honestly, all of you this evening, it's like, it's strange, you do the event, you enjoy the event, but you actually sit and listen to people, and we talk through it afterwards, and you actually realise, like, we actually put together an event like lots of people enjoyed, as Nathan said there as well. Yeah, we pick up the rubbish, and honestly, one thing I would turn around and say to all of our players at that event is, like, I want to compliment everyone on both sides for their personal admin on the site. We had next to zero, like, Coke bottles, MRE rations, British ration packs, bits of pieces to pick up. We picked up pyro. Most of the pyro I picked up probably was like airsoft pyro from the event a week before, just to keep the site owner happy. But huge compliment to our players for tidying up as well. And honestly, gentlemen, thank you very much for this evening. Basha from that task force perspective, Mike from the Opfor, Nathan and James from your sort of DS bit spaces on each side and things as well. And really hope to invite you guys all to our next event, and hopefully we'll be putting up details about our future events very, very soon. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for this evening. Thank you.